Hey guys, Sam Bowman here. I just wanted to share with you a skill that I have learned through all my years in sports, just competing throughout my life, but something that I've recently sharpened, having read a particular book and having implemented that skill as I've played volleyball. Just to give you a little background on me, I grew up playing basketball primarily and went on to play in college at North Georgia University of North Georgia, and then transferred to Covenant College. And then in college, I started to play volleyball a little bit on the side, just recreationally. And after I was done playing basketball, I still had that competitive drive to keep competing in athletics, and my outlet for that became volleyball primarily. And one of the things that I really appreciate about volleyball is how mental the game is. I believe that every sport is more mental than it is physical. And I wanted to share just a quick quote. This comes from Bobby Knight, who is a legendary coach at University of Indiana, very well known for his coaching wisdom and his outbursts. But he did have a good thing to say here. It says, Knight has always said that there are many more mental mistakes in games than physical mistakes. He said, and I quote, "I always say dumb loses more games than smart wins. That's about concentration, discipline, understanding the game, and your impact on it. That's toughness." And I'm reading this quote from the book Toughness by Jay Billis, who's one of my favorite college basketball analysts. If you haven't read that book, that's where I'm pulling a lot of these ideas from. But he just talks about in that book that toughness is really just a mentality. And I've learned this in volleyball, particularly playing beach volleyball 2-on-2. And the reason for this is the reason that it's such a good volleyball is such a good sport, just to sharpen your mental game, is because it's just 2-on-2, and each team has 3 touches. And so when there's a mistake made, it's pretty clear who made the mistake and who's responsible for it, because it's either you or your partner. And so it kind of exposes you. It's not like there's a team of 5, and if we fail on defense, like in basketball, and the other team scores, there's shared responsibility. So it can be a little intimidating in that regard. When you make a mistake, you feel very singled out, like, okay, that point was totally on me that we just gave away. But the most important thing that I've learned in volleyball is that it's a game is played 1 point at a time. There's a break in the action. It's not continuous like basketball, where you're literally just playing up and down, up and down, up and down, and don't really have time to mentally process what's going on, and sort of like reframe your mental. But in volleyball, there's literally a pause between every point and between every serve. And so one of the things that I learned was to mentally refocus and to kind of train my mind and to have positive self-talk between every single point. And Jay Billis, in his book Toughness, talks about this next play mentality. And you can kind of contrast that with, I'm sure you've probably heard, if you played any level of team sports, the phrase, when a mistake is made, the phrase, "my bad." And while it might seem that saying "my bad" is something that maybe a good teammate would say because they're taking ownership, if you really dig beneath the surface, it's not as helpful as this next play mentality. And I'm going to unpack that. Jay Billis in his book says, when my players say my bad after a mistake, it drives me crazy. I saw it. I know it was your mistake, Williams said. Saying my bad is just a way to relieve yourself of responsibility for the mistake. So the difference between saying my bad and next play mentality is this: just the fact of ownership, being able to fail in athletics, and fail when you're playing a sport. Maybe you give away a point, you miss a shot, whatever, and not just say my bad to your teammate, but to literally in your mind say, okay, next point. I'm not going to dwell on my failure. I'm not going to dwell on that mistake. I'm going to recognize the mistake that I made and real quickly determine why I made that mistake. And then all of my focus, I shift to the next play, because focusing on the play before robs you of strength. And the reality is that the only thing that we can control is our mentality and our attitude and our effort towards the next play. There's nothing we can ever do to go back and try to undo the mistake. It's happened. And so just accepting that you made the mistake, taking ownership of it. Okay, I made the mistake, and now I'm gonna channel all my mental energy and all my focus towards being disciplined and towards executing on the next play. And this is true in life, right? We all make mistakes. We're all imperfect, but it really, really is helpful to be able to look failure right in the eye and just say, okay, I've got another try, the next play, whatever it is. And I just kind of wanted to close with this quote that I think is really helpful. Again, from Jay Billis in his book Toughness. It says, failing doesn't make you a failure. Failing makes you a competitor. Every competitor fails. If you lay it on the line, you will come up short at times. Failure is a part of competing. And embracing that fact is an important component of toughness. Tough people fail, but tough people are not failures. The only failures are those who give up or give in. And so I have really seen this play out as I've played doubles, beach volleyball. We use the phrase getting in your own head, and that can happen so easily in volleyball. It's so easy to see one little mistake turn into 2 or 3 or 4. You miss a pass and serve, receive, shank it, and then all of a sudden you get stuck in your own head and you're dwelling on that mistake, and then that mistake turns into 2, 3, 4 mistakes. But the more that I've mentally learned to accept the failure and accept that that's part of the game, that's also part of life. Failure is part of life. If you're competing, you're failing. It just happens. It's part of the game. And if you embrace that and then focused all your energy on the next play, you're more equipped to succeed in the future. And so that's my lesson. That's my skill that I've learned and cultivated through playing volleyball. And I hope that that encourages you guys as you just your mental approach to whatever sport it is you play, or even in life. That failure is just a part of living. Failure is a part of competing. And if you can focus on the next play, on the next ball, on the next shot, on the next job or the next opportunity, you will not rob yourself of strength in the moment. So pray that encourages you and helps you out. Thanks.